YouTube, but we got it live. I'm Dan Gage, Chief Marketing Officer of Blocksearch Blockchain. We thank you for your patience and waiting here this morning. We're here live again, and we're talking about the Singapore Fintech Festival. We have a wrap up from last week where we had over 13 companies and 15 different presentations and webinars and talks with 13 different companies. So I'm joined here this morning with Mr. Tim Basco, who's the CEO of Blocksearch Blockchain. Good morning again, Tim.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good.
Glad we finally got this resolved. Thanks for being patient, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And also Daniel Mincy, who's the president of Fusion STX.
Thank you, Dan. How are you doing? I just posted some comments on YouTube to thank people that were waiting for us, and to apologize a little bit. It's not really nice to wait for 20 minutes, but
right. We
will recoup what we lost.
Well, hey, Google was down this week, so let's blame it on that.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get started and get into this. We talked to 13 different companies last week, and just amazing, phenomenal discussions we had with each of them. And the one common thread that I saw between all of them is that they're harnessing the power of blockchain and this platform to create a new business model, and in many respects, creating a whole new marketplace for many of these companies. Tim, if you would take us through some of the companies that we talked to, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, it's really exciting to be here and to be able to bring everybody the Singapore Fintech Festival, and kind of to end our year on such a high and positive note for Blocksearch, and also for what's happening in the world. The Singapore Fintech Festival is the largest fintech festival in the world. There is over, last year, I've been there for 3 years. We represented Oracle 2 years ago. Last year, we were there with the Canadian government, and Blocksearch represented the Canadian government there. And this year, again, with the Canadian government, we were one of the pavilions, one of the virtual pavilions. The Fintech Festival, Daniele and I were there last year together, and had over 65,000 physical attendees. This year, I think we're well over 100,000 virtual attendees. And the cool part about it, Dan, is that we can continue this presence for what's happening in digital finance and really the digital world overall by doing it. So let's talk a little bit about what we did at Blocksearch and who we introduced as companies and organizations that are involved with Blocksearch. The first really exciting organization that we worked with is the Digital Financial Strategy Observatory at Columbia University. And the DFSO has been around since 2015, founded by Dr. Leon Perlman at Columbia, and it's grant sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So we kicked off the festival with that really fascinating stuff that's so critical for the world right now to eradicate fraud and cyber threats, as well as expand this digital financial services. And to that end, Daniele Mincy, who we've been working since last year, and well before that when we were at Oxford together, on bringing a whole new paradigm to digital financial services. And Daniele and I and Dan had a great talk about Fusion STX and Fusion Funder. And I think Daniele is going to talk a little bit more about that today. We then moved to the largest lending market in the world, which is mortgage banking. Mortgage banking is a $16 trillion industry in the United States. We're launching LenderKey with Hugo DeReis and our partners at LenderKey in Canada, a $1.6 trillion market. And we're reshaping the way mortgage buying of homes and refinancing and everything will be done in the future. So super exciting and fascinating to hear from Hugo exactly the problems in the mortgage industry and what we'll be able to change. Moving on, we are going to space. So we met with Dennis Sillin, and literally we talk about at BlockCerts and our Be Certain platform that we are above and beyond the cloud. We proved it last week with launching, literally, pun intended, launching Exodus satellites and Exodus orbitals, which actually brings the cloud to space. And I'm not going to say any more than that. Spoiler alert. But Dennis is a computer scientist, a rocket scientist, and there's so many cool things. I just always am fascinated in sharing ideas about what's going to happen in space exploration with technology that is looking back down on our world and helping us build a better world down here.
And Tim, just pretty amazing bringing those opportunities to every business. So it's not just for the top tier businesses to use space anymore. So pretty exciting.
And that's the fascinating thing when we start thinking about the things that can be done and really lifting it above the clouds. It's going to be fascinating, and it's going to be affordable, as you said, Dan. Super exciting stuff. Elizabeth Dana is running a very innovative wealth management organization called Infinity Circle Digital Wealth Creation. So I'd encourage everybody to watch that. Really forward thinking and powerful stuff in creating wealth in a new digital economy. Good Italia. Daniele would be better speaking about this than I am, but Daniele, why don't we talk about Italy a little bit here? I think you're on mute, Daniele.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, because kids coming in continuously. Yeah. So the concept is pretty great, and which is essentially the emerging food and technology with a lot of Italian fashion in the food angle. And I met with the guys in face-to-face here in Rome with the founding team, and I think we spend most of the time talking about food and just a little time about business.
Right.
So it's really a passionate company, and we're very supportive in what they're really to build in the food tech area.
Very cool. Lionel Bernard is out of Africa, I believe. And Lionel is doing Wheelie Pay, which is bringing mobile banking to a completely disenfranchised group. It's near and dear to our hearts. We started working in Africa with BlockCerts back in 2018. And we're really excited to be able to be part of that project and help digitize all of the things happening there. We then moved again back into the financial services industry with Christoph Waiton. Christoph has just recently joined BlockCerts and is behind our token projects, our distributed finance or DeFi projects, and our actual token public launch, working with Daniele. Side by side with Christoph is Jason Grewal, who is our corporate counsel looking at global compliance regulation. And again, we're going to talk a lot about how regulation and regulated exchanges and transactions happen. To that end, Jim Needham, the head of strategy for the Merge Exchange, which is the only exchange in the world that is fully regulated for tokenized offerings as well as security offerings, is really doing some innovative stuff and has topped over, I believe, or is approaching a $2 billion market cap. It's super exciting to be able to work with Jim. And again, Daniele, Jim, and I all met at Oxford a few years ago. So to be able to actually bring blockchain forward from what we were just theorizing about is really exciting.
And Tim, I believe it was just deemed the fastest growing exchange also, which is in the world. So yeah, pretty exciting.
It's pretty exciting stuff. Jean-Marc Bouget is the chairman of the Script Foundation Company. Really fascinating work we've done. I've worked with Jean-Marc for about a year and a half on coming up with a digital tokenized model for really fascinating and quite large projects, global projects and transactions to digitize and truly put transactional abilities into a token and do it with an asset-backed token that is the first global asset-backed token by a nonprofit organization. So it actually enables and empowers a new kind of market and transaction with tokens, taking that whole profit and motivation that we have in traditional finance out of the equation. So again, a really interesting conversation. And finally, Alessandro Brunello, and maybe Daniela, you can speak about Alessandro and the work that doing.
We had a lovely talk in Italian, and
so if you want to polish your Italian, listen to this one.
Well, sometimes we use some English nouns, but we have been speaking extensively about what does it mean running a crowdfunding like campaign, because Alessandro is the marketing guy behind the biggest ever crowdfunding campaign in Europe that raised 6.3 million euro on a project called CamTV. Because with Alessandro, we have formed a strategic partnership to build the crowdfunding across Europe through the BlockSearch ecosystem. So I'm very proud that Alessandro is joining our family to bring a crowdfunding bigger and bigger on all the latitude of the world.
Yeah, another brilliant guy. Amazing.
And absolutely. To that point, it's pretty exciting because, as you said, the crowdfunding and all these digital markets are really merging, and regulations are changing dramatically around the globe to build more efficient financial markets, aren't they, Daniele? Absolutely. And even though so the space of crowdfunding, it's growing in a double digits. And right now is doubling every 3 months. So there is a, let's say, desperate need to fund the SME layer of our economy with something that can work, and it's proven to work because we've given a metric in our presentation, and we told them that 86% of the companies raising money via equity crowdfunding raised their goal before the end of the campaign. 86%, which is a lot. And those 86% of the companies create 90% of the jobs. And given what's going on in the world, one of the keynote speakers at the Singapore Fintech Festival, or the keynote speaker, was Bill Gates. And as he predicted, 50% of businesses will no longer be in business at the end of this pandemic. So new digital business models, as we're building with BlockSearch and launching, are absolutely critical. This is a mission that we've been passionate about for a long time. As I always say, BlockSearch has been virtual for going on 8 years now. We are on 5 continents, 10 countries. We're having our global Christmas party on the 22nd, where we will have everybody from around the world that is part of the BlockSearch project right here on our own video platform. And so it's exciting to see these kinds of models actually emerge and these new types of financial markets emerge as well. So that's a little taste and flavor of how we're ending the year. And that guy there on the end did every one of these interviews. So thank you to Dan. That was an amazing, crazy, massively impressive week. And you did it all on the BlockSearch platform too, didn't you, Dan?
Yeah, that's what was really cool. I mean, we've been utilizing our own technology, but this was pretty exciting to put this out there in an event setting where we could place documents and webinars and content for each of these individuals.
And stream, as we're doing right now.
And yeah, and manage it in one containerized space. So it made it very streamlined versus doing these events that I've done in the past. And
well, thanks to you and Tiffany and the team who really
Yeah.
made that all happen, because it was incredible to be part of that and watch this, and all of this being managed and handled by experts and really an incredibly small team for an incredibly big thing, launching 13 companies all at once.
right.
Like,
So and
imagine.
we're sadistic. We're going to do it again, Tim.
We are going to do it again. We're going to go to Hong Kong and repeat this in January. So we'll invite you. I think it's January 18th.
Correct.
We're sponsored again, and we want to thank the Canadian government for helping us go global and stay global and grow global. And we'll be at the Hong Kong Fintech Festival, which is another, yes, giant Asian initiative. And billions of people are part of that economy, as we all know. And it's exciting to be part of it as well.
Great. Yeah. So, Tim, you're on on each of these as well. So thank you very much for what you did, and just some incredible conversations. And for those that didn't or weren't able to watch some of those, they're all posted on YouTube now. So you have a way and a means to do that. And you can access that through blocksearch.com/Singapore speakers. And watch some of those and just see kind of the thread that I was talking about that goes through each of those different businesses and how they're harnessing this new technology.
And speaking of that, I'd like to jump in quick and share a little diagram that I did this week on really what is the digital economy. What is we've called it a lot of things. We've called it the digital fly zone, the digital economy. And I really want to point out something that struck me as what's different. What is the big evolution here that we're seeing by creating? We're decentralizing software, as Daniel put it today. He's like, we decentralize software. Why is that important? Well, it's important for these reasons. First of all, in 2020 and 2021 and the future of the world, technology and money have merged. And technology, I always ask people, tell me which one of these two things you can do without to run a business: technology or money. This is our economy. We're seeing massive changes. We're seeing this attack on centralized software from around the globe for the way that those companies are managed right now. And without getting into that, let's talk about what it means for a digital economy and decentralized software. The first thing we talk about is when we came up with this idea of fusion, we realized the companies need money. Now, they need money at different stages, in different ways, all the way through. So let me just make this very specific. Fusion allows companies to gain funding from investors. It's pretty fundamental. And so does any other financial market. That's how companies get money to grow. Typically, it can be things like seed capital, friends and family, all our own capital, the credit cards. I've built so many small companies and big companies on Bootstrap, but capital is king, especially in the beginning. Then you step into this idea of series capital. And series capital is typically where the venture capitalists have played, all the big private equity people. And that's been a pretty exclusive club, hasn't it, Daniel?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a model that we want to challenge for the good of the, all the whole market participants. So in the sense that companies, especially if you are a young company, a startup. So some of the company with whom we have been, that we have just shown are brand new companies at the very early stage. So once they start too early to raise capital, they are being squeezed by the veterans in the capital raise, because at the end of the day, these guys negotiate conditions in their favor. So in order to kind of
commissions, let me just stop you. Not only commissions, they negotiate liquidity, they negotiate
terms,
dilution,
your company away.
Yeah, the terms are, and they're complex terms that are wrapped into these deals.
Yeah. So, and in order to, let's say, simplify this process, we need to make it more transparent.
Exactly.
So there's no magic solution for that. We want to make it simpler and more transparent for people, so as it will be obvious for market participants to step in and to be more successful into their journey. We are just an enabler to making this process much simpler. Exactly. It's very simple. It's very simple to explain what we're doing. It's a little bit more complicated to tell how we're doing it. But the way and what is the starting point is extremely simple.
And the way that we're making it simple is to utilize technology, smart contracts, blockchain, all of these tools on this massive technology platform that we have created at BlockSearch to enable or build inclusion and accessibility. I told my team today, in all these years, we've never gotten any venture capital funding. I've been there, and I've been and maybe Dragon's Den and Shark Tank and things like that are entertaining, but in the real world, when you actually have a truly innovative idea, the only time you actually get funding from those groups is when you don't need it, or as Daniele said, way too early, to where you really do lose control. And I've had many friends that have been in that position over the years. So it is a passion. I love Daniele's story about building a church and the stonemasons. Maybe you can share that about how we all feel about the difference of what we're doing. So would you mind sharing that, Daniele? I think it's a great story.
Sure, I like it. So the once you wanna express what you're doing, there are different ways to represent and to explain what you're doing. And as an example, I always telling a story about 3 stonemasons that are building a cathedral in the Middle Age. So the first guy is being asked, what you're doing? And the guy is saying, I'm just shaping a stone. The second guy is being asked the same question and saying, I'm building a cathedral. And the third guy is answering to the same question and saying, I'm in a mission of God. So this gives 3 types of representation of the same thing, which is what we're doing. But it can be represented in actions, the first, intermediate goals, the second, and high-level objectives, that is the third. So what we're describing here, when we talk about money and software, is the high-level mission. What do we want to achieve? That we broke down in intermediate goals, which is those layers that are broken down, more itemized in the single actions we're taking to make this piece possible, which is, for example, Fusion platform, the BSR token, and the whole platform. And in very simple terms, I made a hook on the story on the stonemasons.
So it's really interesting when we look at that, because every company goes through those phases. We at BlockSearch go through those phases because our developers are the guys that are going to say, I'm cutting a stone. And our operations people are the ones who say, we're building a cathedral. So when you can actually use this in technology, we call that user interface design. We're building a cathedral. That's the apps layer. That's what the world sees. What's our mission? What's our mission of God? Our mission is to make a more efficient digital marketplace, a more efficient digital business market. And that starts with, how do you merge finance with operations? And how important is that? Right?
And one piece more, Tim, is that we cannot really design every single type of interactions within a brand new ecosystem like this. So that's why we are also building a ways of let me say, unplanned interactions to shape alchemy inside those two works that collide together. So this means there have to be room for creativity for all participants into our platforms. I use the plural. And even more, when it comes down to merging money with software, this is something that all people seeing already, but they don't figure out. And we made a few weeks ago the example of Microsoft. Microsoft is a software company that stock is being traded on a financial market in a stock exchange. Right. But today, finance and money is centralized because it's in the hands of a few people. We want to decentralize, meaning making more democratic.
And software is centralized as well, right?
Absolutely. I was talking about software and money.
Both. Software and money are both centralized. So as a business, you start in one of two places. You either have a business and you have products, and then you have operations and you get customers, or you have a company that needs funding and you get investors. But this is a symbiotic relationship. And the technology that's required to walk this model of finance is the exact same technology with a different face and a different use that is required to walk through this. I have to, if I'm raising capital, I go from seed to series to a secondary trading market, which provides a market cap or valuation and ultimately liquidity for those investors. So that's how that market grows. Over here, I've got products that are systems and production and pricing purchased by the customers, marketing systems and sales and payments, and support and services that drive profits. So whether you start here or you start here, there will always be operational technology required. And that is what this block search platform, Fusion and Be Certain mean. And around that, it's how do you get the equity or the money, and how do you use it, the use of proceeds? And you'll see these crossovers even in financial documents. You see it in financial statements. In an offering document, there's always a use of proceeds section over here. In a financial statement, there's always a statement of cash flows or a balance sheet. So these are interrelated, but because there's been such a huge advantage of keeping them separate, and it's so much easier just to make money. And as Daniele says, take your commission and run. And hopefully if it works out, that's great. We'll take you to the next level and maybe we'll get you some Series A capital and we'll make some more money. But it always reminds me of that movie with, I think it was Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy called Trading Places, where it says, whether our customers make or lose money, we always make a commission. And that's been the financial world up to this point. We do see that changing. We hope that's changing. That's what we're out to change and bring this basic fundamental of the economy, which is driving this value up, to helping these businesses and more businesses succeed, because it becomes incredibly complex to combine these two as a business owner. Where do I spend my time now? Over here raising money and managing the market, or over here running the business and doing a better job here? And from a personal perspective, I've always been challenged by this, even when we've avoided raising this kind of venture don't
you think that the triangle on the left, that becomes the bigger piece of time, and it becomes the elephant in the room and just the most stressful piece? Well, if you could just run your business, correct?
You have to fund your business depending on where you're at in the compliance schema. You have to report on that business. You then have the investors that you have to deal with their interests. And what's very difficult is this investor's interest and that customer's interest is the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah.
This customer depends on this business operating well and incredibly well. And this investor depends on this business operating incredibly well to get here or to get here. It doesn't matter. If I'm a happy customer and I've got a great platform or a great service or product that I'm using, I'm going to be a repeat customer and I love it. And if anything goes wrong, I depend on that company to support me, right? If I'm an investor and that's happening well over here, then I'm able to get up to here where my market cap grows and I've made a profit for the risk I took. And the digital economy is one that uses a platform. And what we created at BlockCerts, my dream, it was always to build this so that we could run these smart documents and tracking and build digital assets all the way through this cycle so that you could do both easier, more efficiently, with less burden and holdup. So these stakeholders, the business owner and the people who back it, whether they're customers or investors, are successful. The problem has been that this disconnect is engineered in current markets. The current engineered disconnect is there that allows this market to make money no matter what happens over here.
Yeah.
Vice versa, if you're a really good bootstrapper, you can make money here and never raise any money over here. And frankly, most entrepreneurs are there. 99% of entrepreneurs and small businesses never raise capital and frankly, never sell.
And Tim, since we are, I don't think we have to tell we entrepreneurs we are in what we're doing, not in what we're telling, but I think the way to show our skin in the game in what we're just showing is we will launch our token and we will extensively explain how those two words merge with us because we are doing it. We'll explain from our experience, and then we'll pave the way forward for the others that are willing to follow within our ecosystem. And even more, I just want to tell one step more about the investors. We didn't spend enough time so far, for obvious reason, to talk about what comes there as part of the diffusion equation. We will spend more time in the future.
That's right.
We will spend more time in the coming weeks and months, because obviously the companies that are being onboarded in the platform are getting anxious about raising capital in a very short term. Obviously, we keep, the companies patient because we have some, good development there. But even more, what we want to do, thanks to what we're telling you, what we're doing, is we are willing to inspire people working with us not to follow the shortest route that all the other people following, which is in the case of raising money, VC-like. Obviously, we work with VC, we work with private equity, but we didn't follow this route for ourselves because we believe, especially for early stage company, that's not the most healthy. So that's why we want to inspire people to raise smart money instead of raising fast money.
That's right. And so when we talk about that, the way that we did that, and we've shared this before, is we created a stack of technology, as Daniela, you said, that allows us to walk that model. And we call this the digital dozen, or as I said, the digital fly zone, where you don't need to go across all these different tools, each that have a very limited and focused functionality. You can go into a stack and you can operate fully the way we did it. And at BlockCerts, we're super excited to announce that we are launching our Be Certain app store this year in 2020. So in 2021, all of these functionalities will be available, will be on the app store, and this will be live before year end. So with that, all of those tools, you can assemble it like Lego. And when you think about it, I've used the example of a Rubik's Cube and all the different combinations you can get there before you get it right. If you look at Lego and you go to Legoland or whatever, and you want to look at how many different amazing things you can build with Lego, that's the kind of technology stack that we've put together. And as Daniele says, we enable people, we enable business models, we're an enabler of these things. We don't have a set, you can do it this way. We wanted to build an ecosystem where You can build your financial model the way you want to. You can build your business the way you want to, because that is the heart of innovation. We needed to be able to provide those tools to do that. And that's what's taken us so long.
You cannot build a new word on a set of predefined actions.
Exactly.
Otherwise it's not a new word. It's something that is already existing.
So we will always be showing in our app store, what you can do, what we have built. We're inviting other developers to build into the app store, and we're bridging the gap between what the market is and where we're headed in the world. The gap between 2020 and all the years before and 2021 to deliver an incredibly new world of digital businesses. And those digital businesses will be funded by the innovation and the power and the scope and scale of what people come up with as they assemble these. And that's what truly moving forward means. So when you're making that leap of faith and you're actually going into a world, we're going to be there, and we're there with our app store right now, and we're launching other brilliant solutions like Lender Key, Market Certain, Invest Certain, Insure Certain, all of these areas where we want to be able to bring new ideas and new innovations, both inside of BlockCerts, but with communities that build into the marketplace to build these brilliant new solutions. And that's what the world from here is about, is brilliant new solutions. Because who would have known a year ago? I was in China a year ago. Right now, I had just gotten back. And then Daniele and I met and came up with Fusion literally in February in New York City.
Yeah, while the coronavirus already started.
It already started. We didn't even know.
I had the sanitizer in my pockets and people laughing at me at that time. Yeah, yes.
Well, and Tim and Daniele, this really shows entrepreneurialism at its finest, and it really gives me hope jumping to 2021 as we've talked to these other businesses and as they're utilizing the Lego blocks, creating very unique new business processes for themselves using new technology, not the old technology of email that's been around for 35 years.
That's right.
Yeah, and we'll explain in a more detailed fashion, probably early next year, the execution framework, and so the guy that is shaping the stone, the part, but also the guy that is building the cathedral, but also the guy that is talking to God. We will explain what a decentralized finance and software means. Because this is something, that most of the people not daily trading Bitcoin or altcoins, people don't get it because it's complicated. It's for geek. So, and then we bring in this to a more understandable layer for people to succeed. Because SME are not tech geeks. So SMEs are guys in the real world that now are shut down because of the pandemic. So we need to help these guys to speak a very simple language in a decentralized fashion.
And so I guess to your point, Dan and Daniele, I guess the big dream and reality now of BlockCerts, because it's taken years to get here, is we are the Entrepreneur's Cloud. We are here not only to provide the software, and I believe that in 2021, software as a service should be over. It really should always be about service as a software. We need to provide the service first. We need to provide the enabling technology. We need to provide the knowledge. We need to provide the smart contracts. We need to provide the code. We need to eliminate those barriers to entry. And that's what we've done at BlockCerts. That's what BlockCerts is fundamentally about, is the Entrepreneur's Cloud. I've been an entrepreneur all my career, all my life, and faced every one of those challenges. I've never had a real job ever. And as that, I mean, since I started my first company when I was 9 years old, I've never had a real job. And this is the wandering, as Daniele says. And I think actually there's a great book entitled "Always Keep Wandering" by some guy named Jeff Bezos. But we entrepreneurs are who provide the jobs. We are the companies that provide the innovations. Everything that we revere out there was done by an entrepreneur at some point. Everything, no matter how big the company is today. So what's the next generation of companies, and where is that platform going to be? And to your point, Daniele, that can't be done on the same model that we've been operating on, A, before this technology existed, B, once it was all centralized, or C, in these financial markets that had regulations written in the 1930s.
Yeah, we need to. There is I don't remember who made this point about the community building in the brand new cities built in the U.S. More than 100 years ago, and this lady made a good point. So community are not built by design, but built by emotions and interactions that flow without planning. So this means, to come back to the point of there's a lot of design thinking in what we're doing, obviously. That is the guy cutting the stone. But there's also a piece of letting interactions flowing, because we need to discover something that we don't know yet. So that's why we need to enable capital and technology to merge together in a much more efficient and more democratic manner. We enable new ways of interactions. But then these ecosystem, it's open for growth, and we have no solutions for anything is going to be built on it, which is the beauty of what we're doing, because we let people grow with us and we don't impose growth to others working with us.
And with that idea of transparency, or as we started out our discussion, with digital financial standards, because standards are important. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there are a lot of risks in business. Let's face it.
And take the first, you just started the call today talking about Google. Google was down. Is there any problem that technology didn't work? There's no problem. What is shocking me is that Google didn't tweet that they were down.
Right.
That's the level of transparency we need to deliver. It should be obvious. Like today, something doesn't work, you tell the people it doesn't work. So we're wrong. We made a mistake. That's obvious. That's the level of transparency that impacts at the deeper level.
Even if we didn't make a mistake, frankly, we didn't know what was going on.
We did. But at the end, you have to tell, we have a problem. We're going to fix it. I mean, to give you a point, there was my mother-in-law. She's a teacher, and she has a class of 25 children she's teaching. Google was down. She was not able to deliver the lesson to the children, and that's fine. But at the end, the level of transparency is staying connected to the community and helping from the bottom of your soul the people working with you. They're not your client. You're working with them.
But don't you also believe, and this has just been in the back of my mind, so I'm going to say it, this is an evolution. And as much as I'll take full responsibility for this next statement. As much as I love to beat up existing models, the venture capitalists, the Silicon Valleys of the world, they did some amazing stuff. They changed our world. And I just don't know that throwing a bunch of lawyers at these guys is the best way to help with this transformation. Yes, there needs to be cooperation between centralized and decentralized, but really, do we need to go after it that way? I don't know. There is a need to transform the world. It's just is the question one of antitrust. We need trust in our market. So I want to end with this because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We are also launching, and this is a philosophical debate, but I also think it's going to be a very important business debate for any size business. And this January, we're launching our platform of Trustonomics, because I believe that the economic world is now saying one thing: how we're approaching it, whether it's by new regulations or it's by legal battles or whatever to break up or reconfigure these companies. It basically boils down to the trust economy, or the trustonomics of what it means to run a company and an organization when you do get these things going that can be trusted. And trust, truth, and transparency is why we have that under our logo at Blockcerts, because those three things are symbiotic relations. And it doesn't matter if it's your health, and I can trust that I'm sitting next to you and you don't have COVID, or it's your finances, or it's your data. Trust is so fundamental to all of us now. And authentication, Dan, we talk about this all the time.
We do.
I can trust that that's actually the person I'm dealing with, that's a signer, or even just talking to me on the other side of that, on the other side of the screen. So the Trustonomics model will be live and launched, and we'll have some fascinating new Trustonomics-based businesses that will follow this stream of thought and building these innovations for the future.
Well, and Tim, I see this as deja vu. It's almost like when the internet came out, when you and I were working, at different entities.
I was in grade school then, Dan.
Well, exactly. Yeah, let me date myself. But I remember customers when I was at MCI, telecommunications company, saying, "Well, this will never work. People will never use their credit cards on the system, et cetera." Well, we're in that kind of a change. Transformation.
Well,
right
but
now.
that's evolutionary, as Tim pointed out, because all of us came from businesses that have been trying to anticipate future needs. This model is proven not to work.
Right.
This model to anticipate and to plan in advance is proven not to work. And I'm reading a fascinating book, which I will not tell because I want to tell more about this book, which is how you can reach your goals by not directly addressing it, because you might not know how to address it. So and the way we're doing is exactly the same. So there's a lot of, the world is changing. Tim has mentioned a couple of stuff. I will mention even more. We're shifting from a debt-based economy to an equity-based economy, which is huge. It's so transformative, because equity means the three of us. It means the SME. It means the people on the ground that are losing the job and have to find a new one and eventually build a new company. That's the shift from debt to equity that we have to encourage.
And not only a shift from debt to equity, because when you think about it, debt carries its interest rates and the fees for that capital.
Absolutely.
But we're also shifting from a fee-based market model to a transaction-based market model. So debt and equity both carry a cost. If I today am in a 1.whatever% economy, 1.5 or whatever the number is, then I go out to the equity market. In the traditional market, I have to pay 10% or more and a ton of fees to get into that market. So think about that. If I get $1 million and I could borrow that at prime or current interest rates, $1 million would cost me about $15,000 a year?
Yeah.
But if I go get that same $1 million from the equity market under current models, it's going to cost me $100,000, which means it's going to take me 7 years to catch up to where I could just borrow it. In a decentralized business model, what happens is that 10% fee goes away. And can we afford 1.5%? Probably. Can we afford 3%? Most likely. That's pretty good. But 10%? Really? Like even in a 3% economy or 5% economy, I mean, do the math. A lot of money is going into this fee market. The same things happens with technology. The same thing happens in the SaaS economy. The technology fees for access to these centralized platforms, which will explain to you why this is such a huge burden on companies, is $2 trillion. It's about $2 trillion for fees to access one of those two things you can't do without, as we started out with, technology or money. So where's the money really going to? Like, where is this big economy that where this rescue money going to come from that is going to stimulate and re-stimulate and build new business models? So we're moving from debt to equity, and we're moving from fees to transactions. And here's how you measure success: more transactions, more efficient services, right?
Yeah.
Once you do that, you know you've got scale. You know you have a growth in the market valuation.
Yeah, but today is not like this, because
No.
you can double your market cap, and you can even reduce your business.
Exactly.
Or you can buy back your stock, even better.
That's right. That's right. So when we talk about data, when we talk about money, when we talk about technology, and this is what we're going to be bringing out in 2021, it was a great way to close out 2020 by saying, yes, a relatively small team was able to bring 13 new business models to market and launch that at one of the biggest events in the world. We couldn't have done that a year ago. Like a year ago, this would have been completely impossible. That's how fast this is moving. Our tokens, the way that we're going to model our business is around this idea of utility and streamlining these things and building smart contracts and smart transactions into everything. It's a transaction-based business model, Dan.
It is, and just one
exciting to me.
Yeah, and just one quick point to fee-based to transaction-based. As we all know, fee-based with seat fees of software that we utilize or anybody utilizes out there, less than 25% of what you pay for is used.
That's
and
right.
You know, when you just transfer that into a transaction-based economy, there's just huge savings that could be placed into other areas of growth in the business. So.
And that drives inclusion and efficiency.
Correct.
That actually, and it's my belief that as these markets mature, they'll eclipse. They will literally eclipse what we do today. And from these kinds of restrictions, there will be a much bigger, more inclusive world, more people having access, more businesses being able to be formed as a result, a bigger economic benefit than what we've seen up to this point.
And I think we cannot envision how big is this. We can only project our visionary mindset, but the true reality is that this is much bigger than the most imaginative we can be to project it, but this is way bigger. That's my take on this.
I agree.
It is. So let's wrap this up, Tim. What do you always say? We've been here over an hour. Thank you.
I always say, so I think this is, are we doing one between Christmas and New Year's, Dan?
No, actually both Fridays are, we've got.
This is it, isn't it?
This is it for the year.
This is it for 2020. Yeah. So before I wrap up, I want to say, what a journey this has been. What a year this has been. We will be posting up on our YouTube channel our year-end closing. We've come together as a community at BlockCerts. We've come together, like I said, across 5 continents, all over the world, 10, 11 countries now, I believe. Right. And it's been an incredible journey. It's only starting. It's only just beginning. With the hope, all the work, all the innovation, say what you will about big companies. They're bringing us a vaccine. They're bringing us hope. The big companies do that when they come to the table. We love that. So we're not anti-big company. We're just changing the model. And I want to make it clear that we believe that 2021 is going to be an amazing transformation in life. And I wish that for everybody out there, for those people who have lost relatives. I've known some, lost family members to COVID. Our condolences and hopes that people start really being able to be safe and really find recovery out of this. And with that, we'll say, please stay safe, stay healthy, and definitely stay digital. Get digital. If you're not already digital, get more digital. And what can I say? May the force be with you.
And let's look at 2020 in the rearview mirror and bigger and brighter things in our future. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
That's right. Happy holidays, everybody. We wish the best to all of you, and thank you for joining us at The World From Here. We're super excited to open up 2021 with our first big event coming up in Hong Kong, and we're not slowing down.